two very important products on the screen right now. SharePoint. In SharePoint 2010, every single list is exposed as an OData feed. That means those arbitrary expressions that you just saw, you can issue directly against SharePoint. And many of you, I know this is a web conference, but many of you deal with lots of SharePoint installations. And what this means is you could build very rich device experiences on top of SharePoint utilizing this protocol. The second thing is we are building support for OData into Excel. In 2010, you can utilize a plugin we call Power Pivot for Excel to go in and talk to any OData service. And that means you can pivot on the data, build charts, build diagrams, and really interact with that data in a rich way. Further, there are more and more and more Microsoft products that are either implementing, providing OData feeds or consuming OData feeds, some of which we have on the screen. And of course, we support, as I said, many different client APIs in order to be able to talk to this open data protocol. We support the JavaScript API, which you've seen twice. We have a PHP client. We have a Java client. We have the iPhone client that we have. In addition, we have the .NET client. And today, I am very happy to announce that we have made the decision to release the .NET OData client under the Apache 2 license, and that is available for you today. We truly want to have as many clients on as many devices and in many languages and in many runtimes as we can possibly get on top of AtomPub and these three conventions that we call OData. And we are partnering extensively with many people in the community, with many of our customers, in order to expose more and more data utilizing this mechanism. Many of us strongly believe that OData is the mechanism by which we can get open data for the open web. And we are extremely excited about the opportunities that we have with it. And you can go today to www.odata.org. The site is live. You can get all those clients that I just talked about. And you can also see all the different implementations that we have are available. And there's a great SDK that people can start to use in order to get a good understanding of what OData is. And we're really looking forward to working with the community and our customers on ensuring that we get very broad adoption of these set of conventions on top of AtomPub. Great. So the next thing that you want to turn to when you think about this web API world is you want to be able to write your own web APIs. We just talked about a protocol, a set of conventions that you can have on top of AtomPub that will provide even greater richness for all these different devices. But how do you go build your web API? How is it that you can simply stand up a web API that you know will be reliable and will be scalable? And so we have a very, very, very great set of solutions in order for you to go build that. And in fact, this is the way the Netflix API was built that you're just seeing. The Netflix API is built on top of Windows Azure and built on top of SQL Azure. So for those of you hitting Netflix.com, you're hitting a Windows Azure website backed by SQL Azure. And so what we'd like to do here is show you how simple and easy it is in order to be able to write the same kind of web API and move it directly up to the cloud. So Jonathan, let's switch over. We have Visual Studio here, and what Jonathan has is our scenario that we're going to show in just a few moments is we want to continue on this movie theme. And what we're going to do is we're going to stand up a web API that allows us to specify whether or not we own a given movie. The Netflix API is read-only. You can get all the information from the catalog, but we're going to build a service that allows us to specify whether or not a movie is owned or not inside of an application. Jonathan has an existing database. We have an existing model. Jonathan, can we go in and show how easy it is to build an OData service? So Jonathan's going to add a new item, and what he's going to select is a WCF data service. And what that will do is create for you a nice little template, and all you need to do, because we've already specified our model and we already had our database, is to go in and put the parameter in the generic, and in this case we're just specifying the context that we have generated from the diagram. And then he's got to set some configuration rules. And this is just a simple matter of Jonathan going in and setting some config, which he's going to say, please allow all the different aspects of the model to be exposed and allow anyone to access it. And you'll notice, Jonathan, I believe you removed more lines of code than you actually wrote.
Yeah, there was a lot of comments I had to kill.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and hit F5. And so we have just built an OData service. We had an existing database. We built the model very quickly. We literally imported that in and created an EDM. And you're seeing the exact same service document, the same exact functionality by, I think Jonathan literally wrote one line of code in order to enable that. Now, this is running locally right now on SQL Server as well as Windows Server. It's running on this dev box. So what we want to do is do the same exact thing that Netflix did. We want to take that we have local, and we're going to move it directly up to the cloud. How easy is it for us to do that, Jonathan?
Well, because SQL Azure uses the same, all we'd have to do to convert from SQL to Server to SQL Azure is swap the connection string to point at our SQL Azure database, which I've already deployed. So in this case, we could do that with a simple web config change.
So the other thing Jonathan's going to do right now is he's going to go in and he's going to add a web project. And what this is going to do is specify all the different configuration options you need in order to move to the cloud. The key point that I want to get across here is that, one, it was simple to build that web API. And two, it is a matter of configuration in order to move that up to the cloud, in order to take advantage of the reliability and the scalability and the inherent benefits of moving to a cloud-based infrastructure. And so what Jonathan has done is he's done very simple configuration. If he right-clicks here, we can go ahead and do a direct publish and take it up and deploy it into Azure. But in the interest of time, Jonathan has already deployed this previously. He's going to go up to the Azure portal, and you're going to see that exact same service running with 0 lines of code changed. So he's going to go up. You can see this running on cloud app.net, and he's going to say movie library. And you can hit this service. The service is live. It is the same lines of code that Jonathan just wrote a few moments ago, 1 line of code. So the next thing we want to show is we are very committed to make it even simpler to build these cloud-based web APIs. So Jonathan, could you do me a big favor and kill Visual Studio? We're going to shut down Visual Studio, and we're just going to utilize a web browser. We are going to build that exact same web API inside of the web browser. And in order to do that, Jonathan, I would love for us to navigate to the SQL database if we could. And we will go in, this is the SQL Azure portal, we will select that movie library, and you'll notice there's a new button for those of you that are familiar with SQL Azure. It says Manage Database. And if Jonathan selects that, you're going to get an early look into a project we call Houston. What Houston is, it is a web-based mechanism to build databases, to develop databases directly inside of the browser. There, well, there's some applause there. We're very, very excited about this. This means if you have a browser and you have Silverlight, you're in the database development business. And so what Jonathan is showing here is he's going in and examining the table that we already have, and we can show all the data that is available to you directly inside of that, not opening up another tool, not deploying another tool at all. So we now know how to create a database up there. But the second thing that you saw us do just a few moments ago was create that WCF data service. Well, what we also have to show you today is an early look on something that we're going to put up on SQL Labs here very shortly. And what this is, it is an automatic OData service for any SQL Azure database. And this is the easiest way for you to take data inside of SQL Azure and get it exposed into that OData ecosystem. And all you need to do is check a checkbox. In fact, Jonathan and I joke that this is checkbox-driven development, and we expect there to be a whole plethora of books available on how to do this here shortly. And so what you see us doing here is Jonathan checked the checkbox. He specified that database that we were just looking at inside of Houston, checked the checkbox, and now you see a link there that we can hit, and we'll go directly to it, and you can see that exact same web API fully available to you, and we didn't write a line of code. So we are absolutely ecstatic about the opportunity to really up-level the experience, to allow you to build these kinds of web APIs directly inside of the browser. The key thing is to open this data up, and we want to give you the tools, runtimes, and languages in order to be able to do that. So the next question that we pose, the question is, now that we can build a scalable, reliable web